Thank you, Madam Chair, for your introduction. Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to start with just saying a few words of thanks to the organizers for inviting me to participate in this panel. As our chairperson just told you, I have this dual role at the moment. I work for the Secretary General Climate Change Support Team, and I'm also an Industrial Development Officer at UNIDO. I will be speaking to you about our perspective and my work in the Secretary General Climate Change Support Team today. My director, Mr. Janusz Pastor, could not make it. He very much wanted to be here with you this afternoon, but unfortunately his busy travel schedule and prior commitments, he is now traveling with the Secretary General, prevented him from coming here in person, and he asked me to join this panel on opportunities and challenges. Now, of course, speaking of opportunities, the biggest one that comes to mind immediately is the opportunity and also a challenge, I must add, which is only less than 100 days, or rather 96 days away of us. It's the opportunity of sealing the deal in Copenhagen, of sealing the deal that will provide a global framework for the global collective action to limit the greenhouse gas emissions. But it's also an opportunity where the climate dimension and our developmental aspirations overlap to a great extent. In this sense, this is an opportunity not just for a successor climate agreement, but an opportunity for a development agreement of the century, and perhaps the most important development agreement that we ever had or will have. Clearly, such a historic opportunity calls for global leadership, and this is where the Secretary General has been extensively involved for some time now. Mental aspirations overlap to a great extent. In this sense, this is an opportunity not just for a successor climate agreement, but an opportunity for a development agreement of the century, and perhaps the most important development agreement that we ever had or will have. Clearly, such a historic opportunity calls for global leadership, and this is where the Secretary General has been extensively involved for some time now. So in this context, please allow me to say a few words about the strategy of the Secretary General that he has been using in his work on climate change globally. His work has been directed at several areas, and it includes, first of all, the highest level of political leadership, which he has been providing, engaging at key and relevant heads of states and states of governments, also linking the agenda of the upcoming agreement with other key forums such as the Major Economies Forum on Climate Change and the GA process. The Secretary General has been making great personal efforts to raise global awareness on the importance of reaching the agreement in Copenhagen. To do this, he has been actively engaging political, business, and civil society leaders worldwide, and also engaging the UN system and the private sector in particular in a massive awareness-raising campaign. Leading by example, the Secretary General continues to further encourage the climate-neutral UN and make appropriate changes to the personal and professional operations of his office. Secretary General is leading a reinvigorated climate change team, CCT, which consists of principals of UNDP, UNEP, DESA, DPI, and the World Bank. And this team advises the Secretary General on strategic policy advice in relation to climate change and the links of climate change with broader developmental issues such as poverty reduction. Secretary General, in his numerous speeches and interventions at the highest level with member states, continuously emphasizes the uniqueness of the United Nations system and the capabilities that the system has to offer in shouldering the implementation activities of whatever Copenhagen agreed outcome we will have, particularly in the areas of technology transfer, financing, adaptation and mitigation, early warning and assessment, education and training, and climate-neutral United Nations. In order to ensure such a coherent response and the delivery on the part of the system, the Secretary General has been leading personally the work of the Chief Executive Board, CEB, and the High-Level Committee on Programs, HLCP, on coherence of the response and delivery by United Nations agencies, funds, and programs on the challenge of climate on both sides, prior leading to the Copenhagen Agreement and also on the implementation side. The Secretary General has been working, of course, through his envoys. You know, he has 4 high-level envoys that they've been representing him in various forums. They've been supporting him in his consultations with heads of states, with key stakeholders in order to facilitate the UNFCCC process, and also in order to help to reach an ambitious, comprehensive, inclusive, and ratifiable post-2012 agreement in December this year. Another instrument of the Secretary General is a newly established advisory group on energy and climate change. This group has been established in May this year. It comprises some prominent business leaders, experts representing energy think tanks, research institutions, civil society from around the world. As I said, it's an advisory group on energy and climate, and this is not perhaps surprising because energy is directly linked to the major efforts underway to reduce greenhouse emissions. Some 70% of global emissions come from the energy-related activities, and at the same time, energy, as it's been already highlighted by the previous speaker, is very closely linked to all other developmental challenges we are facing, such as poverty eradication, food security, overall security, technology, and innovation. While focusing on the key energy dimensions of the climate change negotiation, this group is also looking more long-term and focusing on the implementation issues, such key issues as energy efficiency and energy access. The group is mandated to analyze information on energy dimensions of the current climate change negotiations and assist in charting a course for the implementation of future climate change agreements, particularly those related to energy sector. The group had so far 2 meetings, one here in New York when it was launched on the 17th June, and the most recent one took place in Stockholm. And this month, the group is preparing its first briefing on energy and climate change for the Secretary General. As I've already mentioned, the key issues that the group is focusing on are energy efficiency and energy access. And again, this is hardly surprising. I'm sure in the course of yesterday, you probably talked a lot about it, but nevertheless, let me make a few comments in this direction as well, because clearly both energy access and energy efficiency fall within the category of these biggest challenges and opportunities we are supposed to deal with at this panel. Among the menu of alternative approaches to reduce greenhouse gases, improvements in energy efficiency offer the greatest potential. Energy efficiency leads to enhanced energy security and increased competitiveness. The International Energy Agency tells us that 2/3 of the mitigation potential by 2030 could be realized through energy efficiency measures. Energy efficiency are therefore of critical importance in order to address energy security and also mitigate climate change. Many countries have made significant progress in energy efficiency, but still more remains to be done. Despite large potential for energy efficiency improvements across different sectors on both supply and demand side and on both process and system related, the uptake of energy efficiency improvements and actions remains to be rather slow, constrained by barriers, and does not commensurate with the potential that exists there for energy efficiency.